Hi, this is Leanne, and today is Benjamin Franklin's birthday. So happy birthday to Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers of the United States of America. And Ben was an amazing person. He had quite a mind, and I thought it would be fascinating for me to go over some of his qualities shown in his handwriting, which confirms some of the things we know about his life, since he was such a popular person and a leader and an inventor, a scientist. He did many tests. He did lab tests on electricity, and he had many discoveries regarding and theories regarding electricity, and he was involved in civic organizations, and he was just an all-around very, very bright, brilliant leader. So, happy birthday, Ben, and I'm going to get into his handwriting sample here. Look at his signature. Isn't it amazing? I love his signature. It shows such fluidity and grace, and I know back in the 1700s, many persons of an elite status, if you will, educationally, were able to handwrite in this beautiful long form. But with his handwriting, I just absolutely love it. And I want to show you some examples about what I'm talking about and what the meaning is behind it. First of all, if you look at his handwriting, you'll see that it's very fluidly underlined. And that was done quite a bit in those days, but I will say, when somebody underlines their signature, that always means a very self-reliant person, someone who's really quick in gaining confidence about themselves, especially out in the public eye. Your signature denotes how you view yourself in society. So, given that he's underlining in a very fluid artistic form, that means he feels a flourish of confidence and self-reliance and independence. The other thing I wanted to show you is the way he does his B. Whenever someone does a very large loop, the loops in handwriting always denote an individual's imagination. The larger and wider the loop, the more imagination the person has. And obviously, he had tremendous imagination, because here he was going out in the middle of lightning storms and flying kites with keys on them, attended to ropes, whereby he would do his discoveries on electricity and how that can be grabbed and utilized for purposes in society. In fact, I'm using this technology right now because of our lovely friend Ben. So look at that loop there in the front of the B. That shows an individual who has an incredible amount of self-confidence again, because it's large. The capital B is rather large, as well as the F, which I'll get into in a moment. And it shows that large loop. That shows he loved responsibility. He loved being the leader. He needed to be the top dog. If he were a sled dog, he would be the first dog. A sled dog in an Alaskan team always needs the leader always needs to be the leader. They can't go back to second place. It's a very interesting truth. So with Ben Franklin, without knowing who he was, let's say I didn't know who he was, because he wasn't a celebrity, I would still say he has this amazing sense of confidence and exuberance and an awareness of his mental agility, if you will, because see how fluid all of his handwriting is? Now I'll get into the F. See how the B goes directly into the F, and it's like this little flourish before up here and then down. I mean, he really has a strong sense of connection with family. He felt very connected to his family name, and I know this through the handwriting. I don't know this for a fact. So for those of you that might be historians, maybe you can add a little bit in that regard. But I see, because he makes a clean connection here. See how the B loops and it goes up? That because the connection is clean and it's made directly into the lead-in, we call it in handwriting analysis, of the F, that shows an individual who's going to be very close to family, very protective of family, but feeling very connected to others that are around him. And it may not be his original biological family. It could also be a connection to the historical family, or it could be a connection to those of his friends, his close friends around him. He was very, very connected in that regard. Now, obviously, he was an elite, or he's one of our founding fathers, so that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Okay. The other thing I would just allude to is see the A in Franklin. That's a very cleanly closed A, and I just did a larger example. It's not the same as his, but it's similar. And when it's clean and closed like that, that means a very straightforward, honest person. He's not going to tell you lies. He is not going to fudge over things. He will delete information. He'll hold information internally, but he won't necessarily be a liar. So our founding father here, Ben Franklin, was a very, very honest, straightforward person, maybe a little bit too straightforward for some people. But I will say, because there's no gap, there's no opening, he could be quite secretive, and he could hold a secret very well. And he was very discerning about when to express his truth and when to hold back and not say anything. So he was very much the politician too, but not like the politicians of today, whereby a lie is considered like a normal aspect of their being. Ben Franklin was definitely a very honest, forthright individual. Okay, now I'm going to move to another aspect of his handwriting. There's a lovely artwork here denoting his discovery seeking capabilities with a key during the storm, and the kite is in the back. So here we have, and I'm going to make this a little larger so you can see it. Here we have his handwriting. See how even everything is. It's so perfect in its connections going across the page. You see how you could put a ruler underneath the words. So that shows an individual who's very emotionally consistent in their responses to their environment. They're not going to stray away. They're not going to change. They're not going to be different from how they present themselves out socially. Who they are is who they are. They're going to be very consistent is what I'm saying. The other thing I wanted to say is his T-bars, and anyone's T-bars, they basically indicate an individual's philosophical approach to life, their ideologies, and most important, one's career ambitions. And see how big that T-bar is? See how far it goes? It goes all the way across. I just emphasized it. I'm going to erase it so you can see it. So it's a really enthusiastic person who loves their work. They love their career. They feel optimism about it. I mean, see how it goes on a slightly upward slant? When someone goes on an upward slant with a T-bar, that always denotes an individual who's going to be very enthusiastic and very optimistic and have strong willpower. So you put all that together, no wonder he discovered aspects of electricity that no one else fathomed. The other thing I wanted to show you is his thinking letters, the M's. When someone makes M's where they're very deep V, inverted V's, in the middle of the M, and I exaggerated, his slants more to the right, which means he's more extroverted and other-oriented. It means that inverted V, that it's an investigative personality, someone who likes to look very, very deeply into matters and into details. So I thought that would be interesting to show you because it shows how persistent he would be in finding out the data about electricity by discovering different aspects of electricity under different conditions. And the last thing I will show here before I move on to the next sample in the handwriting is, I love this. See the D? It literally goes back over and it makes like a little loop. You or someone you know might do that. That's always somebody who's very cultured. They love the fine arts. They love museums. They love artwork. They love things that are of a cultural quality, if you will, refined, but not pretentious, not an individual who's going to be arrogant about artwork or his accomplishments. He felt very strongly about himself in terms of his self-reliance and his intellectual independence and thought, but I don't see him being arrogant in any sense or fashion. Now, the other thing I just saw here, which is really cool, and I want to show you, I want to exaggerate that for you a little bit. See that H? When someone makes an H like that where it loops up, and I can't do it easily because I don't do this, but he goes on to the next letter. That always shows, it's called the Houdini H in handwriting analysis, and it means somebody who's really able to get out of a bind. They make connections that other people won't make. They're a really great problem solver, and as an inventor, of course, and a scientist, that's like the perfect example of him and his capabilities and his intellect and his facile quality that he had to make new connections that other people would not even consider. Okay, let me make this smaller again so we can move this forward. All right. And here is another sample of his handwriting. Very different. It's a letter that was written. I don't know when it was written, so I can't tell how old he was at this time, but it's very different from the other handwriting, which shows the other handwriting was probably more of a public document. It was probably written when he was younger, and it could be, in fact, and this is his photo, so it's not of a woman, it's him in his hat there. So, but Ben Franklin, maybe in his later years, I don't know enough about his history. I know he had a lot of life challenges as a result of his trying to make the discoveries that he did. Maybe it took a toll because, see, overall, the handwriting, the slant in handwriting goes back and forth. Like some handwriting goes more to the straight up and down. We measure this as handwriting analysts. So sometimes the slant's going right, sometimes it's straight upright at 90 degrees, sometimes it's going left. Like even the G there. So like when you see that, you know the person emotionally vacillates back and forth. They're not consistent in their emotional responses. They often are individuals that are facile, that can relate to many different groups of individuals and many different types of people because a part of them is an introvert and a part of them is an extrovert and a part of them, will shift depending on the environment they're in. But it can be very unpredictable for people who have been used to an individual being as predictable as he was in the last sample. So I don't know what happened in his life, but it got to a point where, maybe he had some kind of medical issue or something, or the strain of publicity, being out there in the public eye, that might have done it, or his being combative, because it does show here when someone spikes a P, the word is splendid here. See that loop above the P, right there in SP, splendid. That loop that's above the rounded curve of the lowercase p, and the loop down below means physically minded, but the loop above the circular movement of the pen indicates an individual who loves a great debate. And being a founding father, of course, that makes perfect sense to me. A lot of lawyers do this in their handwriting. So there is a joy in the debate, in sort of the process of debating, is what I'm getting at. All right. Okay. So let's just move to the last slide. And I'm Leanne Boas, and I'm from InkBlinksRadio. And I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, but also this happy birthday message to Ben Franklin, one of our founding fathers, inventor, scientist, and all-around great leader and discoverer. So I hope you've enjoyed this talk. I've enjoyed going over the aspects of his handwriting. If you'd like to have me do your handwriting, or if you have any questions or comments about this tutorial, you can contact me at inkblinks@gmail.com, and I would look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening and have a great day. Happy birthday, Ben.